Now, the leader of the Scottish Tories, Douglas Ross, said the other day, talking about the next general election in Scotland and saying, look, you know, we are the Conservative and Unionist party. The most important thing to us is that we keep Scotland very much part of the Union, get that second referendum off the agenda. He says, where there is the strongest candidate to beat the SNP, you should get behind that candidate. And he urged Rishi Sunak, as well as Keir Starmer, to look a bit beyond their own narrow party agenda. But you see, the thing is, given our first-past-the-post system, given the absolute tribalism that that instills, I think these parties care more about themselves, ultimately, than even the causes they purport to be in favour of. That's my take on it. Does it make sense? Are people voting tactically in Scotland already? And let's have a little look at what the first-past-the-post system does in Scotland. Well, I'm very pleased to say that Sir John Curtice joins me down the line, President of the British Polling Council and Professor of Politics at Strathclyde University. John, good evening. Welcome to the show.
Good evening.
I was having a look before we came on air at nearly all the constituencies, parliamentary constituencies, Westminster, in the Glasgow city area, and similarly at the ones in the Edinburgh area. And you can see in nearly all of these seats, last time round, the Labour Party, the SNP won all these seats, but nearly all of them, last time round, the Labour Party in Glasgow were getting about 4 times the number of votes than the Conservatives were getting. So actually, if the SNP are weakened by all the current scandals and whatever else is to come, logically, what Douglas Ross says makes sense, doesn't it?
Well, it makes sense if you think that the principal objective in voting in Scotland is to try and diminish the SNP as much as possible. But there are 2 downsides so far as the Conservatives are concerned. Downside number 1 is that in helping Labour to win seats in Scotland, they might also be helping Sir Keir Starmer secure an overall majority in the House of Commons. And indeed, the fact that SNP support has gone down and Labour now look as though they've got a reasonable chance picking up maybe at least a dozen seats in Scotland, maybe more, has undoubtedly improved Labour's chances of getting overall majority across the UK as a whole. That's problem number 1. The other problem is that he who lives by the sword can die by the sword. And one of the concerns that the Conservative Party south of the border will undoubtedly have is whether or not voters are so disenchanted with the Conservative Party that they are going to vote tactically against the Conservatives in the UK general election. There were already signs of that happening in the English local elections in May of last year. It'd be one of the things we'll be looking out for in the local elections this year. But if Liberal Democrat voters in constituencies where Labour have the better chance, some of them switch towards Labour, and equally some Labour supporters switch towards Liberal Democrats, where the Liberal Democrats are better challengers, then the Conservatives could lose out quite badly, much as they did, by the way, the last time they crashed to a serious defeat, which of course was the 1997 general election. So don't be surprised to hear that south of the border, talk of tactical voting is heard with a certain amount of trepidation inside Conservative central office.